Welcome everyone to today's final workshop of the day. Before we start, let me share the topics of today's session. Probably you may have read it on the slide that you see on your screens, and it's all about like everything you need to know to get up to speed to do patching in Atera. And apparently it's seems like the topic to go through, but apparently a lot of customers that I talk to as a solutions engineer at Atera, I meet people who do it different ways, different styles, but I want to get us all on the same page in regards to how to create a proper mindset to do patching in Atera to make it actually work and to get you to the highest highs. I don't know if I can put it like this. Today I'm accompanied by our wonderful friend from TechnoServe, LV. LV, say hi.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, so today we'll be covering several topics, and the main problem, like the main question that we need to answer today is why do patches fail? How to fix it? Does it actually work? And this is where I will pass the microphone to LV and attest to what I'm saying is actually true and it actually does work. And I will also share some advanced tactics on how to implement those into your day-to-day patching routine to make it shine as much as it can. Okay, so we did the intro, so let's keep it for now. And I'll start with this statement. So why patching matters for all of you out there, IT people from MSPs and IT departments. Well, it's very critical for your businesses. It doesn't matter where you come from, but according to Verizon 2024 report, every third patch may cause a breach. Doesn't necessarily have to be a breach, but it can. So, and this is why we're all here trying to understand how to make it work the best way possible. Let's start with the mindset. So, for all of you who are existing Atera customers, uh, you probably know how a Terra patching page looks like. For the ones who attend a Terraverse for the first time, who is not an Terra customer, I will show the interface in a second, but I want to establish the mindset first before we see the UI itself. So the way patches should be divided and isolated in separate lanes is because they do different things, and some of them require the reboot, some of them don't. And the most important is that they might interfere with one another. To avoid this, we need to separate the critical patches, everything that is non-critical, like definition updates, rollups, drivers, and whatnot. Software should come in a separate lane, as well as the script execution should be somewhat isolated unless it's critical for the updates themselves. OS upgrades, one of the hottest topic of 2025 because October 14 is at the door, and the need to upgrade to Windows 11 is becoming more and more crucial for enterprises out there. But we should also not forget about the regular maintenance. Okay, let's dive straight in. And for this, let me show you the Atera UI. Okay, let me switch my screens. Okay, so this is how the patching page looks like in Atera. So as you can see, it has a toolbox style layout, which allows you to do many things in many different ways. So you can install critical patches, you can do non-critical patches and combine them all inside one profile. You can do Mac updates, Linux updates, software patching, OS upgrades, maintenance tasks, execute scripts, and for those of you who are interested in disk management, you still can do it here too. But it all starts, let's do a couple of steps back. It all starts in the main menu at the global settings of patching. So this is where you actually can improve before you even begin building your patching strategy. So first and foremost, don't hesitate to click on the manage icon to exclude the patches because apparently the way the mechanism works, how we patch the patching information in like let's it's a three-way conversation between the endpoints, us, and the Microsoft WA server. So the key idea here is to get rid of the stuff which is outdated. What I mean by that is that device might have something that it's like something that is very recent, like of 2023, 2024 type of patch. However, it still reports that 2017 patch is still available technically. However, it's not possible to install it. You'll get an error code. This is why I encourage you to use the excluded patches as part of your strategy to clean up your future use of the patch management dashboard. The second global setting that I want you to be aware of is something that is very crucial when you're trying to establish your patching strategy is to queue the updates for up to 1 week or even 2 weeks. Why is this important? Because if you have multiple executions per day and you have multiple executions per week for different types of patches, your success rate goes significantly higher. And not only that, let me demonstrate. So here are the critical patches. You need to isolate them from the rest of the patches and software updates because they have a simple simple but important trait that they require the reboot as soon as they are installed. The sooner the better. And this is why reboot, if needed in this area of the product, is different from the reboot in the maintenance. Why is that? Because reboot device, if needed for critical patches, is something that you do, something that you check in order to engage the configuration policy to send notifications to users that, hey, your device is about to be rebooted. To make sure it does the reboot in the right time, make sure to be aware of two things. Device local time zone, one of the most recent additions to the patching page, which is you need to use the device local time zone, is preferred. You don't have to, but it's preferred because otherwise, if you have devices in multiple time zones like LV does, this will help you significantly to avoid doing the cross time zone math. So, and as you can see, I have not sharp times like 10:15 a.m. and 12:15 p.m. for critical patches because my configuration policy, which is here, it will allow me for the next 5 hours after 12 p.m., which is 5 p.m., to finish the critical patches before the end of business. Because if you go over this amount of time, and then the user like closes the laptop lid before he leaves his desk, the reboot will be the first thing that will happen to his or her laptop in the morning. And we don't want that because no one asked for an extra ticket. Am I right? Probably yes. Okay. Our next stop is next example is non-critical patches. You can combine them in the same profile as most of them do not require an isolated profile. But also, before you do any type of installation, especially for security updates and critical patches, don't forget to use OS patch approval settings and postpone your patches to avoid installation straight away. You can create a kind of a safety net for 5 to 7 days and maybe extend it to 14 days in the holiday season just to make sure the patching works the way you always want it. Okay, so configuration policy, I already explained. Very important thing about patching, configuration policies, and everything in between. Aim to do the folder-oriented strategy. What I mean by that is to do not avoid site-wide or customer-wide solutions. Try to isolate your PCs and folders and apply profiles and configurations accordingly, and use the agent-based approach to treat the exceptions, because payroll specialists, C-level guys, they do not enjoy when their laptops or workstations get rebooted at random times. And most importantly, the accountants will not say thank you if they're dealing with the pay slips at the end of the month, but you still need to patch them so they stay compliant. And with that being said, let me switch back to my presentation and recap what I just said. Okay. So you want to create an evens and odds type of strategy, because if you're tackling the critical patches on a given Monday or Wednesday, you do the non-critical stuff on a given Tuesday or Thursday. And consider several executions per day. You should aim for the morning hours, and you can do several executions per day because it will work in your favor, because Atera will pick up those devices and make sure it will try to execute it as many times per day as possible, catching as many online devices. Why do I mention specifically 10 a.m., 12 p.m., 2 p.m., and 4 p.m.? Try to think as your employees, because what we're aiming here is what we're aiming here is to find people at their desks because they come at their like workplace at 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m. They having cooler talks. They have their morning coffee, having a chit chat with their co-workers, and probably their laptop is still hanging out in their bags, and it's not efficient. And we try to avoid that, and this is why we actually share the strategy, and to prove uh, to like that what I'm saying is actually true, I will pass the mic to Elvi because don't take my word for it. Ask the man himself.
Hello, everyone. So to add on to what Dima was stating, applying this patching strategy, especially for an organization like myself that's international, different parts of the world, operating often in a decentralized manner, um, this has allowed us to increase our patching capacity from around like 50% where we were with critical and security patches on all our systems out there to a more modest 85 to 95% as patches roll through. And that's just the way the system works. You know, it runs the execution, and then it runs it, and if it fails, it fails. So allowing it to sort of be set on a schedule, whether if it's a daily or whether it's a couple times out of the day, will ensure that it does catch. And something we did notice too is that it doesn't slow the system down. It sort of just kind of just goes on based on the list of devices that are online. So it's kind of like acts maximal capacity to get patches and upgrades. Back to you, Dima.
Yeah. So the question that like I got it just in the like I just got in the chat like Garris is asking how disruptive it is to daily users work because we discussed it like the other day on one of the training sessions. So can you share some of your experience so the people will know?
The impact has been very minimal. So long as the configuration for restarting is set appropriately for your organization, whether if you're going to give them the option to, be able to not restart the computers after 5 times, right? That is trying to do that restart. So long as that's set up adequately, the impact is very minimal. Users barely ever notice that, there's a patch running in the background. Unless it's one of those Windows updates, maybe they may notice a message on it. But typically, so long as the reboot policy is set adequately, they're not going to notice anything at all. Half the time, they don't even know that it's actually happening in the background, which is very helpful to get right, just to minimize the impact daily. Because, yeah, we know how that can be when your computer just abruptly restarts. It's never fun.
Never fun. And never fun when it's a team meeting or something and you are the one clicking the slides. Speaking of slides, let's get back to those. One of the hottest topic and one of the pro tips that I would like to share, and LV also implemented this strategy. So an isolated task to upgrade machines to Windows 11. So what I noticed as a solutions engineer, and LV is one of those companies with whom we worked on this type of strategy, and I talk to like a good dozen of customers per week. So the main thing is to you like if you're using products like Microsoft Intune, you're familiar with the update rings. When you have like a ring zero, when you have a test group of devices, and if it goes well, you can roll it out to like a wider audience. Let's put it like this. So first, inside your site or your customer, you can create a folder which will be called like Windows 11 upgrades. Then you create a system restore point, and the system restore point task takes from 20 to 45 minutes, according to Microsoft KB article. I don't know, it depends on the machine, but I think it's somewhat accurate. Something tells me. The next is to move the devices into this folder with this task in mind, and it should be like couple of hours before the actual upgrade to Windows 11 because it takes good 2 hours. It has like 5 to 6 reboots or maybe even seven. I think it's like from 5 to 7. Guys in the chat, you tell me what is the exact number. Yeah, and maybe we can have a price for this. Okay, and then the isolated task to upgrade to Windows 11 needs to be executed. But the most important difference to any other task inside Atera is that this is one of the few examples when we would encourage you to do this on online agents only, because the OS upgrade is something that you do intentionally. And this is where the pro tip, which is not listed in my slide deck, but I will still tell you. that we would encourage you to check if the toast messengers are muted on end users' machines, and you can utilize its built-in Atera scripts. If you don't know how to build one, you can utilize Copilot to build one, to inject it to devices to see if, like, to re-enable the toast messages, or maybe use script-based alerts as an alternative to check if like the toast messages are muted to re-enable them. These both strategies do work. Moving on from there, patching pro tips. Before I move to the recap part, let me share Atera UI once again. Wanted to mention something that is very important, and this actually touches two areas. One is software management, second is the scripts part. So if you have software that was historically installed on your machines before the Atera times in your company, so make sure you do treat the software bundles as a notification system for Atera to trick it into thinking like this software was installed through Atera. So you can add it to software bundles and then patch it. The question, one of the most frequent questions that I get on patching sessions is what happens when you check both Chocolatey and Winget for Windows and like Homebrew for Mac, respectively. So the Winget and Chocolatey, if checked both of those at the same time, Winget will do it first. Chocolatey will come second. So Winget logic works as a command Winget upgrade dash dash all, and if you want to exclude a selected software piece from the one which might be patched, which should be patched, you click on manage and just exclude the respective piece of software. Speaking of scripts, scripts, if added, like we suggest to add like either one script, you can add multiple. However, if your script does have dependencies, we suggest to go with time-based offsets or a success exit criteria for script A for the script B to kick in. That way, you will make sure they execute in a specific order, especially if those are configurations for your like disk encryptions, AV products, and everything in between. Okay, so LV, how do you do that?
So
Like,
for
real quick.
for for the Windows 11 upgrade, the testing that we did, we followed similar instructions, sort of just created batches. Following that similar principle, want to do some testing before we roll it out and execute it. So doing that within the sites themselves, creating that folder, moving the items pretty easily around, and then creating the automation profile to one, start creating that task for creating that backup, which is essential. And that can be automated and you can have your reports generated. So from there, you can easily identify what systems are ready to go. And then from there, we actually had a second profile because not all systems, completed their backups at the same time. So we created another folder to be like, hey, these devices in here, they're going to run this automation profile to run the upgrade, right? And these are already systems that we vetted that have and are ready for the upgrade. And the minute that they go into that folder within that site, the automation profile that we created just ran, and it ran successfully. We don't have many machines that need to upgrade to Windows 11, fortunately, but for the ones that we do, this is the process that we're following. And the automation profiles really make it very helpful. It's super granular as we can get to ensure that we make those updates. And even with those tips too, with the scripting, you know, given that we're not using SCCM to manage these upgrades and such, Atera has allowed us to bridge that gap significantly in order to be able to customize and tailorize these upgrades to our systems and wherever our users are, whether they're in a coffee shop in France or maybe in South Africa. It doesn't matter. We'll make sure that our systems are up to date. I guess the only thing that you will be concerned about is making sure you have an internet connection. But surprisingly, even with a slow connection, somehow the patches do manage to go through.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it actually proves my point, and thank you for that. Okay. So we have a lot of like Windows 11 related questions. So in the reports section, guys, to everyone who is on the session, in our analytical reports section, you have a preset report called OS Overview. This will showcase this will be like a multi-tab dashboard, which will show you which devices are eligible or not eligible for Windows 11 upgrade. So to see which ones exactly, you can click on the bar and you will see which exact devices are not eligible. And for Windows 10 devices specifically, I would like to show you one thing. And it actually lives on the agent page. And like as you can see, that OS number is 10, like it says there all on Windows 10. If you go to OS and security, you will see a field which is not visible on Windows 11 devices, which is will show you that is not eligible. And speaking of being eligible or not, this field is a combination of several parameters like the TPM chip, the amount of RAM, free space on the disk, and the generation of the CPU. So it all is taken into consideration to be displayed in the reports. And if you are on the on our tier 3 and tier 4 subscription, where you have the ability to create your custom dashboards, you can customize the OS overview report to get even more data out of it. And we saw absolute crazy cool use cases, for instance, like a cost of not doing the upgrade. So this is, yeah, it is absolutely doable with custom calculations because we have Looker BI embedded into Atera, so there is a way to do it. Yeah, so back to our slide deck. We need to wrap up, apparently. It's said, but we need to go back to the slides. Okay. Uh, Short recap of what we discussed. I know it's fast, it's a lot of information, but it's all recorded, and you're more than welcome to be invited for existing customers to contact your CS person to request a re-onboarding session, in-depth retraining. And for those of you who are just considering Atera as their future RMM and a PSA tool of choice, don't be a stranger to our webinars. We discuss it in more details in a more expanded format, but the chain of thought, the mindset is exactly this. So yeah, you're more than welcome. And let's recap what we discussed today. So first of all, time your patches to real life. So when people are at the desk, do them. When they have the devices is not there, when the devices are living in their bags, please avoid as much as possible. OS patch approval, hold OS patches and security updates. You can do it with OS patch approval settings on the IT automation profiles page. So do it for 5 to 7 calendar days and pair it with scheduled tickets functionality. And you can use both AI scheduler and calendar picker to remind technicians to get back to this patch profile and uh, approve anything that it can be installed before the timer ends. Very important is that like OS patch approval settings pages, they have static links, so you can paste them in the scheduled ticket, and you can send it to a certain technician. So he will just in one click, he'll be there, and it will take him probably 10 to 15 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on the amount of patches that you're facing. And last but not least, use configuration policy. And probably one of the last pro tips for today is if you have any types of GPOs that control reboot settings, or you have an Intune policy which also is involved into this process, please make sure you make an exception for Atera configuration policy to take effect. If you don't, the configuration policy settings inside Atera will be not as useful as they can be. They will probably be not working as intended. And this is why it's so crucial to have those, to take this into consideration when you're doing the patching. Okay. Yeah, so that will be probably it for today's demonstration, but we have some time for questions because we have like a little bit more than like 3 minutes. Yeah, so okay. So let me see if we have so Jason, I see like Jason several times asked questions. So Windows 11. So you can check our help center actually, and let me even go back to the product itself and show you where to find it. So if you go to our Windows, sorry, I type in Windows 11 readiness. Atera, apparently I searched it quite. Uh, you can see that Windows 11 readiness and compatibility assessment is one of the KB articles that exists in our knowledge base. And I would encourage you to go through this wonderful KB and understand how to use script-based custom fields and how to understand how the like this uh, Boolean value of like the Windows 11 eligibility works and which parameters does it consider. Speaking of the TPM chip, RAM, CPU, and free space. So, and you can take it even further and use it in analytical reports and build one using even the account custom fields and get a report which will show you which devices are not eligible and take action from there. Also, you can add like a custom field, like is it eligible or not, and you can filter by this value. So you can make your reports really, really, really actionable, and I mean it. Okay. Um, so yeah, how often the device information is refreshed? Upgrading to Windows didn't activate Windows correctly in some machines, but after power shelling, the update key device list still showed incorrect. So different parameters on the agent page. They have not the equal optics of the information. So some of the parameters might be reporting to Atera after 1 hour, some about 4 hours. So, like most of the some of those are almost real time, but not quite because otherwise it will be suspicious for the machine and putting a heavy load. But yeah, it might take some time, but always check the recent processes. But what I would also add is that in recent processes, the script, like the Windows 11 upgrade command might be looking successful. However, depending on and if you have a device, and I had this just 2 days ago with a customer on a demonstration that Windows 11 command upgrade was executed, but the free space was not there. You need 64 gigs and it was only 23 available, so it didn't happen. But it says the command was successful, the upgrade wasn't. So these are the two key differences in between those two. So yeah, that will be the response. Okay, question for LV. How does LV handle patching for those more sensitive employees like C-suite and accounting payroll? Maybe it's the last one for today.
Um, Fortunately, those teams are very receptive. Communication's been key. If we see that we have maybe like a heavy load of patches that we do have to apply, we do reach out to teams, kind of give them a heads up. It's like, hey, within these hours, we're going to be pushing some patching, and we have created like specific automation profiles for that. And you can even tailor them within the automations profile, selecting, you can do a folder base, you can do a site base, you can do a individual system base. So depending on what we have going on, we use those tools to automate and then just give those users a heads up like, hey, these patches are coming through. Please make sure your system is connected. Fortunately, it's a very small group of individuals, and they're very receptive of it. So that would be my suggestion is to use the automation profiles and obviously communicate with your users directly, right? They are our first line of defense and they appreciate anytime we let them know ahead of time that, hey, something's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah. And that's our final pro tip for today. Thank you. Yeah, it was amazing. Bye bye.